Hey, it's Phil from SmilingGardener.com. So a couple of days ago, I talked about my recent run-in with the flu. Thank you, by the way, for all the nice emails and the comments. I'm actually feeling much better now. I still have some weight to gain back and some bags to get rid of under my eyes, but I'm doing a lot better now. And what a lot of people said was, nobody's invincible, anyone can get the flu, and I totally agree with that. But I also feel strongly that there's always a reason for it. And so there could be a lot of different reasons, but in my case, I feel it's a nutritional issue because my mind is happy these days. I don't have too much stress. My exercise routine is really good, and I haven't been eating very well this winter. And so I just feel, for me, it feels very much a nutritional issue. Anyway, the bottom line is that I am disappointed that my immune system allowed me to get the flu, but the really good thing that has come from this is that it has inspired me to increase the size of my organic garden this year and also just do a better job of growing more food for next winter, so I have enough nutrient-dense food during the winter to make sure I don't get the flu again. And so in a few days, I'm going to be sending you a checklist of all the things I intend to do in my garden this year, many of them as soon as the snow is all gone and the ground is workable, so that I can plant, so I can expand this into this new area of the garden, and also just continue with my existing garden and make sure the food I get from it is as nutrient dense as possible this year. So I'll be sending you that in a few days. More nutrition means less sickness and disease for me, which means more time to enjoy my life. But it's also important to talk about the many other benefits we get when we follow this checklist and bring more nutrition into our garden. So that's the first thing I want to talk about today. So the first one is flavor. And the reason so many kids don't like vegetables these days is because most vegetables don't taste very good. And I'll be making a video in a couple of days where I talk more about why that is. But the bottom line is that when you get more vitamins and minerals into your food, you get much better flavor. So that's a big thing we can accomplish in our own gardens. The next one is yield. When plants have optimal sunlight, temperature, air, water, and biology and chemistry, they can reach their maximum yield. So we can definitely beat the conventional chemical approach using organic methods when we're focusing on this nutrient-dense food. And I have a member in my Smiling Gardener Academy named Kathleen, who told me I have the most productive garden this year I think I've ever had. So many strawberries, raspberries, and blueberries that my freezer's full and they just keep on coming, plus all the other bountiful veggie crops. So yes, we can be highly productive using organic methods. The next one is storage. A lot of the food you buy today will rot within a few weeks, sometimes a few days, if you leave it out of the fridge. And again, that points to a deficiency of nutrition. So nutrient-dense food, it can last a lot longer and it doesn't even rot. Most varieties of fruits and vegetables will just slowly dehydrate, retaining their flavor and their quality, but they won't rot, they won't go bad. Next on the list is insects, diseases, and weeds. Most of the really pesky ones will go away as soon as you get your garden to a certain threshold of health. And when it comes to insects and diseases, they just can't digest that food that has reached that threshold. Insects, for example, just don't have the enzymes to digest that food. And then when you look at weeds, your soil, when it gets to a certain level of fertility, they have no reason to be there because there's nothing to fix, because that's what weeds do, is they fix imbalanced soil. So once we get the health up, all of these things go away. And then the last main one is cost. We can do all of this for a lower cost in the long run. In the short run, we may incur a little bit of higher costs if we decide to bring in maybe some rock dust like I talked about last time, or some sort of organic fertilizers or microbial inoculants to improve things. But in the long run, we are saving a lot of money. We don't have pesticides to spray. We have hardly any fertilizers to apply, and many of the fertilizers we can make ourselves. We have not that much water to apply because our soil can hold on to water for weeks and slowly release that water. And we have hardly any seeds to buy because we're already growing the best seed there is for our garden right there. Now, most gardeners struggle to achieve those goals because they're not doing even half of what I'm going to be laying out in the checklist, maybe not even a quarter of it. And it's not that you have to do everything in the checklist at all, but when you start to do more of these things, you start to have more success. And so today what I want to do is talk a little bit about why we're doing these things in the checklist. So the checklist is like how to do them, and today it's more what we're doing and why we're doing it. And the most important thing to remember is that most of the tasks we do in the garden are aimed at improving either the biology or the chemistry in the garden, or both. Biology refers to the living organisms. Most of the organisms in our garden are responsible for improving our soil, feeding our plants, protecting our plants, controlling pests. And I believe we're currently in a shift in the gardening world and in the farming world from a chemical mindset to more of a biological mindset. And so one of the main goals in our garden, first of all, we always want to be thinking in the garden, making sure whatever we're doing is helping the biology in the garden instead of harming them. And one of our main goals is increasing the diversity and number of beneficial microorganisms, animals, insects, and plants, while repelling or controlling the harmful microorganisms, insects, animals, and plants. And so when we look at this checklist, I think there's 17 items on the checklist, and 6 of them are about bringing in this beneficial biology directly. 9 of the items on the checklist are about feeding that biology. And then when we look at controlling the not so beneficial biology, all of the steps in the checklist improve garden health, which, as I mentioned earlier, helps control these things. And then there are about 7 of the steps are about controlling and repelling them directly. Chemistry mainly means minerals, but also includes other biostimulants like vitamins and enzymes, and even water and air. So when we're talking about chemistry, we're not talking about synthetic chemicals. We're still talking about organics. We're really just talking about the periodic table of elements. That's chemistry. And so about 11 of the steps on the checklist are really about bringing in more, especially vitamins and especially minerals into the garden. And so the reason we want to bring more nutrition into the garden is because that helps us have a more fertile soil, happier biology in the garden, and then it allows the plants to take up those minerals into themselves to do all the things they do with them, and then it also comes into the food that we eat. I don't want this video to get too long today, so what I'm going to do is, if you're interested in this chemistry and biology topic, I'm going to link right below the video to something I wrote last year that I just updated yesterday, actually, that goes into more detail about all this chemistry and biology stuff and how you can actually apply it into your garden. And the rest of the series, I'll continue talking about that too, but I really encourage you to read that post because I think it's a really good one. For today, I just thought it was worthwhile to share the first thing I talked about, which is nutrient-dense foods bring us not only much more nutrition, but also when we grow a nutrient-dense garden, we can get higher yields, foods that taste much better, store longer, that are susceptible to fewer insects and diseases, and soil that has fewer weeds, and all of this in the long run for a lower cost. And then the other thing is that everything we do in the garden is really aimed at helping the biology in there, the beneficial biology, and bringing more nutrition into the garden. And we really, for optimal results, we really want to focus on both of those. If you're not already on my email list, you can come to my website, smilinggardener.com, and fill out the form that's on the right side of pretty much every page of my website. And then you get my free organic gardening lessons, my free ebook download, and a bunch of other cool stuff. If you are already on the list and you know someone else who might want to check out this series here or get on that list themselves, and if you're on my website right now, you could use the sharing buttons that are on the right side of pretty much every page of the site, or if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can use their sharing buttons. And if you want to give me a like or a subscribe or anything like that, I will not complain. And so I'd love to continue the conversation down below in the comments. Again, the questions I'm asking in this series this week are, what problems did you run into in the past year that I might be able to help you with? Or what questions do you have for the upcoming year? By the way, I really appreciate all the emails I got in the last few days when I posted about the flu. And many of those emails, those things you sent me, would have been really useful for other people to read too. So if you can post instead in the comments, then I can answer there. Other people can get the benefit from your wisdom and your questions and my answers. And I know I'm using Facebook comments for this series right now. I know not everyone is on Facebook, but if you are and can do that, that would be beautiful. So post whatever you're thinking about down below. I'm going to respond to every question, and I'll be up with another video in a couple of days. That's all. We'll see you soon.